Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 8 a.m. Thursday morning check-in. Thank you for all your good mornings. So nice to see your names, your sweet emojis popping up. Today I'm closer to the camera so I can read without having to bring in other equipment. So that is nice. Feels less complicated. I want to talk about something that is an undercurrent, I think, for a lot of us. And with everything that's going on, all the upheaval, all the uncertainty, again, with the rules or the way of being, the norms shifting, how this can really be brought up, be really triggered or activated inside of us. I want to talk today and weave these threads together of rebellion, belonging, and really how we have throughout these many, many weeks talked about who we really are and bringing more of the aspects of our truer self out into the light. Things that we maybe have been hiding from ourselves, or mostly just from others. Aspects of ourselves that perhaps we're not fond of or we disconnected from. And I want to start at that foundational level so we have this place that we can leap off from today. This foundation of remembering that as human beings, we really have two psychological needs. One of them is belonging and acceptance, feeling loved and safe. And the other is authenticity. So being able to express who we really are, quirks and all, imperfections and all. And when our sense of belonging, when our sense of attachment, security, safety is put at risk, we will disconnect from that need for authenticity. That will go by the wayside. We will chop that off, hide it away, right? And this is a survival mechanism. You know, when we are young, we rely on the people around us to take care of us. We have to feel that safety. We have to do whatever it is that we have to do to feel like we belong. Because if we belong, then we are safe, or at least safer than if we were to be cast out, or if we didn't have that tribe. There's a lot of amazing authors and teachers out there who talk about this importance of belonging and how throughout our lifetime, most of us will, in the beginning, cast out this sense of, or this need for authenticity, and how in our lifetime it's part of our healing journey, if we so choose to step into it, to go back and reclaim those pieces of us. Wonderful teachers who talk about this in various ways, like Carolyn Mace, as she talks about the tribe and puts it in the context of chakras and healing and growing our chakras. Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who is a beautiful storyteller, talking about myth and the wild woman archetype and reclaiming that piece of us. Joseph Campbell, in his hero's journey, the heroine journey, that these are all things that it is part of the human experience that we face these choice points of whether or not we want to go through that journey. The book that I'm reading now that is it's really present for me. I talked about her before. I read one of her blog posts before. Toko Turner. I'm reading Belonging, Remembering Ourselves Home. And she does a beautiful job of weaving in stories as well. and has a beautiful way with words. And when we're talking about reclaiming ourselves, one context that we can think about this, and this comes up often, I know, with people that I talk about in the circles that I sit in, is thinking about it in the framework of a lot of us feel like the black sheep, whether it's the black sheep of our particular family unit or a larger family system or black sheep of a community, where we know that we're different. We just have a knowing that we have had to suppress certain things, that the norms within that particular system aren't necessarily in alignment with who we are or what our values are or what our purpose is. And some of us are very aware of that at a young age, and some of us will suppress that until you get to a point where it's more painful to keep going along with things that are not in alignment with you. That becomes more painful than looking at that reclaiming and starting down that journey. So for some of us, that journey starts really young, and for some of us, it can be much, much later in our lives when we take a look at that. But I wanted to share this morning because I feel like it brings all these threads together, the things that we have been talking about, showing up in the world in the midst of uncertainty. And right now people have a lot of opinions and a lot of strong opinions, and it can feel very divisive. For a lot of us, there can be a familiarity of perhaps how we grew up and how we had to survive that, either by being really quiet, tiptoeing around things, or needing to set really strong boundaries, and finding that middle, which even finding the middle can feel and be like an act of rebellion. And what I love, Tokapa says in her book, when she's talking about rebellion, I love this. She says, though we think of rebellion as warrior-like, it's really about making the self vulnerable in a heavily armored world. So the act of rebellion isn't necessarily an overt, in-your-face action that we have to do. In a lot of ways, the act of a rebellion starts with just taking a step back or separating, or even just voicing the questions, not attacking, but just putting voice to the questions. Is this right? Is this even right for me? Not necessarily right for everyone, but is this right for me? The act of rebellion is to expose and be exposed in those places that have been kept hidden for too long. Because the rebel chooses to speak up with her voice or action against tradition, she risks her life and security of false belonging for the chance at truly being alive. And in doing so, she incites aliveness in others. This is a pivotal journey in the heroine's journey when she stands alone. She is led by the depth of her convictions to take a stand, to name the unaddressed, to call out of hiding the secret malaise in her community. And she arrives at this standpoint not without doubts, not without uncertainty, but in spite of them. And sometimes there is a hefty price to pay, like being the target of criticism, or worse, rejection from the group, which is at odds with her truth. And this is often what can happen at differing levels when we reclaim those pieces of us that go against or are different than the norms of our system, of our community, or our society. We are exposed. We are vulnerable to the criticism and the questioning, and even being outcast if we haven't already been outcast. No. And that is part of, for a lot of us, a big part of our healing journey is being able to do this, have the courage to do this in spite of what could happen. And when I think about this for myself and my healing journey, and I see this again with so many of the people that I work with and especially sit in circles with, for so long, I felt like a wolf without a pack, and nobody would ever have known that about me. I could blend in. I could be quiet. I could smile at the things that made me uncomfortable. I could just kind of disappear when things got a little too intense or it was too much for me, without using my voice, without really setting any boundaries. I would flow in and out. But inside, I felt completely alone. I felt completely alone. So I belonged to a family, I belonged to a pack where I didn't feel like I fit in. Right? That's not real belonging, that's fitting in. I did what I had to do to make it look like I was belonging, but that's not belonging. And what our goal is, whether that is for some of us in extreme situations, we may have to step away from that system. We may have to set boundaries and physically pull away. Or it might be we just have an acceptance. What we really want is an acceptance from people around us. And if we can let them be who they are, what they are, that gives us even more permission to be who we are, what we are. And it doesn't mean we have to not be a part of our family system, but we can belong somewhere else. And that has been probably the biggest aha for me, is recognizing that I haven't disowned my family. And yet I'm also very clear I don't really feel that sense of belonging with my family. I have found that elsewhere. But it wasn't until I could start speaking and living more in alignment with who I really am that I could find those people that I actually belong with. And so that is part of this journey for all of us. The other thing that I want to share with us all today is this. Again, it's from the Book of Belonging. Tokapa has this list. It's called the Black Sheep Gospel. Okay. So these are 13 things that she encourages us to really sit with, to see if we can integrate. They're words possibly to live by. And so as I read these, I encourage you all to just see, does this resonate within you? The Black Sheep Gospel. Number 1, give up your vows of silence, which only serve to protect the old and the stale. Number 2, unwind your vigilance, soften your belly, open your jaw, and speak the truth you long to hear. Number 3, be the champion of your right to be here. Number 4, know that it is you who must first accept your rejected qualities, adopting them with the totality of your love and commitment. Aspire to let them never feel outside of love again. Number 5, venerate your too muchness with an ever-renewing vow to become increasingly weird and eccentric. Number 6, send out your signals of originality with frequency and constancy, honoring whatever small trickle of response you may get until you reach a momentum. Number 7, notice your helpers, not your unbelievers. Number 8, remember that your offering needs no explanation. It is its own explanation. Number 9, Go it alone until you are alone with others. Support each other without hesitation. Number 10, become a crack in the network that undermines the great towers of establishment. Number 11, make your life a wayfinding, proof that we can live outside the usual grooves. Number 12, brag about your escape. And number 13, send your missives into the network to be reproduced. Let your symbols be adopted and adapted and transmitted broadly into the new culture we're building together. So this is what I want to leave us with today, and as we move into our weekend, is really empowering, watering, nurturing those seeds. If you were with me yesterday morning, nurturing those seeds of aliveness of who we really are, what we bring into the world, into our lives, even just day to day, our own uniqueness, our quirkiness, the way that we view what is happening, what it is that we need, what the next right step is for us. Because when we speak it, when we live it, we give others permission to do that for themselves as well. And my goodness, that is definitely what we need more of in this world. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. A reminder that we will not be here on Friday or Saturday, but I will see you again Sunday morning. And hopefully I will see you tonight for yoga. All right. Have a good day, everybody. Goodbye.